Okay, so today we are going to be discussing the question, how did the main factions of Judaism form? So, Judaism used to be a very structured religion with everyone was either Judaism or you believed in something else. However, there were these main factions, kind of like different denominations that formed. And although the main factions of Judaism are different, they all originated because of cultural difference. The three main factions that I'm going to be talking about of Judaism are, number one, the Pharisees, two, the Sadducees, and three, the Essenes. So, the Pharisees is a very famous fashion, and it was created through the Babylon captivity. So the Babylon captivity was a very major event within Judaism, and this really did affect all three of these main fasces. So when Babylon went in and they conquered Judah, and they took all of their young men, their upper class young men, and this is a quote from Daniel that actually says, "Without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace." So these very smart, beautiful upper class men, so they took them to Babylon, and they also destroyed Judea's temple. And so they left Judaism without one of its founding things that they need to worship. So by doing this, they left Judah in confusion, they left them without a temple, and they left them without leaders. So in order for Judaism to survive, it had to change. Otherwise it would die out, because they didn't have a temple and they didn't have the resources or money or leaders to build a new one. So, since all the leaders left and stuff, new leaders rised up, and they took charge, and they really changed Judaism into what the Pharisees believed, and they were called the Pharisees. So the Pharisees really believed that it was very law oriented and Torah driven versus temple driven and sacraments driven. They were very strict with the rules, and they kind of always just lived in this poverty and fear, and so they just had their Torah that they could easily pick up and leave Judah if they needed to. And so it changed very much when the culture changed, and that's how we got the Pharisees. So my second main faction that formed was the Sadducees. So another really famous group, the Sadducees was formed by the upper class society, who were descended from those Jews who had lived in the exile, so during the Babylon captivity. These upper class men came back to Judea after 60 years-ish, and when they came back, they thought that they were coming back to a Judah that they knew and a Judaism that they knew, but to their surprise, everything was really, really different. The culture was very different, and the religion was very different. So, quote, "Despite the loss of the temple, Judaism did not die out as a religion, but temple worship and sacrifice were impossible." This is a quote from Dr. Parker. And so that's just something that the people returning from Babylon just knew that it was temple driven. They had to be able to have temple worship and sacrifice and do all this stuff in the temple, and they were shocked when coming back and finding these people just reading the Torah and being okay with that. So but in their culture, they couldn't have a temple. It was impossible for them to do these sacraments. So their Judaism was based more on the Torah, as I've said, and and also the Judah people from Judah who never left looked at these returners and they saw them as spies, and they did not trust them, and they thought they were spies for the Persian king. So they didn't really trust them. They didn't really let them back into their religion or their families. They were kind of like just outcasts, and so they just kind of formed this new form of Judaism called the Sadducees, and that now works. And so now we have these two groups that we've heard about a lot. But my third and final group is the Essenes, which we haven't heard a lot about. So this was a fraction of many separate but related religious groups, and they shared in similar beliefs such as immersion baptism and not swearing, not getting married, just some very interesting beliefs that they all had shared, and they were super duper interesting. So they kind of were formed, they were kind of like the Pharisees, that they were just kind of formed while there was no really like powerful people to take charge. So some of the people did not like how the temple was being run, and so they left Judah as a protest to be like, we're not standing for how you guys are running because we don't think that's what God wanted. So they left Jerusalem and they went and lived in the desert to hear God's voice and to focus on Him more instead of what the people or what the temple or what the Torah said. So a quote from the PBS article, it said, they go to the desert to get away from what they see to be worldliness of Jerusalem and the worldliness of the temple. So they just went to the desert because they thought that God was not with the Pharisees or the Sadducees. And so they went there, and they actually, it was super interesting. They are believed to have written the Dead Sea Scrolls and really like listened to the prophet Isaiah. And they were also it is thought that they hid the Dead Sea Scrolls when Rome took over, so that Rome didn't destroy them, and now that's why we have the Dead Sea Scrolls. And so that's super interesting. And they were just like the monks of today, kind of, that, you know, very just like wanting to please God and not needing anything else but God. So although the main fashions of Judaism are different, as you can tell, they all came because of culture difference and culture change. But they all still have the same kind of beliefs, and they all are still thriving. So again, the three main fashions of Judaism are the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. Thank you.